just the frames. Got keys to the kingdom, unlocking chains. Sober the podcast, open up your brains. Sober the podcast, let's get it, man.
Welcome back to another episode of Sober the Podcast with your host, Bradley Saxon. And CJ and I have a special guest today, Mr. Woodrow. Do you like, is it okay if we call you Woodrow, or would you rather be called Woody?
Either one
Either
matters.
one. Mr. Woody Dantzler in the house.
What's up, man?
Gentlemen,
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing your couch, your platform,
Yes,
your
sir.
space with me.
Well, you know, we're just including yourself, men who have wanted to use whatever that looks like to pass on to the next man. I think the older we get, the more we realize that joy comes in giving.
Yeah.
And we're excited. For myself, I'm excited because I watched you playing football my whole life, but I've also told you in the gym that day that I'm equally more excited just to hear about how you met Jesus and how that's catapulted your life and, you know, what you do today as a result of that ministry, you know?
Yeah.
And I know our stories are completely different.
Yeah.
It's funny because people think Sober the Podcast, they think, well, it has to be somebody that's been afflicted by addiction.
Mm-hmm.
But that ain't the case in this scenario, in this situation with you.
Right.
And sober really in a lot of contexts is not really the absence of drinking. We see in the Bible that sober-mindedness is this restored mind to sanity to where we're able to see things through a different perspective, you know?
Yeah.
So traditionally, Woody, the way that we start this is we asked our guests 3 questions. It's called the 3-pointer. And at the end of the show, you'll have an opportunity to shoot and show them jumpers, but also a chance to take home some merchandise. Yeah. And CJ must have stayed up all night coming up with 3 questions to ask Woody. So CJ, I'm going to let you give it a go.
Here we go. Start the 3-pack. So, who quarterbacked North Carolina State in 2000?
In 2000? Oh, that's Phillip Rivers.
Okay. Bang. I started off easy.
Well, and let's say Phillip Rivers is a guy you never forget.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, to do what he's done in the size he is, man, he may be the best quarterback to come through North Carolina
He's a big
State.
dude, too, ain't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
But he's not as tall as most quarterbacks, right? Or
Phillip Rivers? Oh, he's huge.
He's up there.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you see him play in the NFL, he looks like he may be 6 foot, 6'1".
Yeah, but when you 6'5", standing next to a 6'8", 6'9",
You're
guy,
right. You're
look
right.
like that.
Yeah.
But is Phillip Rivers the quarterback that's never won a Super Bowl in the 20-something years he's been in the NFL?
Yeah, man.
It's crazy.
He
man.
made a lot of money, though.
Oh yeah, he made a lot of money for
He's
sure.
doing just fine.
Yeah.
All right, so who won the ACC championship in 2001?
Ooh, that's easy.
Shoot, for who? In 2001.
That was not your senior year.
Yeah, that was my senior year.
I
my
think
last year.
I do think
Graduate year, I don't know. I'm going to take a guess. I think that was Maryland.
It was Maryland.
How-
There you go. Yeah.
How about that, bro?
It was Maryland. Yep. Yeah,
That's
sure was.
Maryland.
Good old Ralph Regis. He left Tech and went over to Maryland.
Yeah.
I remember that game.
Yeah. All right, 2 for 2. All right. What day?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
See, this is now I'm starting to understand. We're saying that's easy. We talking 2024. We talking
20 years ago, 23
oh,
years ago.
bro. We talking 23
But
years ago.
I feel like this might be a day that you would
Never forget.
That you would never forget.
Okay.
What day did you score your first NFL touchdown?
I don't know the day.
Do you know the month?
I don't know the month.
Was it around Christmas time?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But
So
was
it's
you
like
playing
this-
for San Francisco or Dallas?
I was playing for Dallas. I think it was like the 6th game of the year because they had called me up from the practice squad.
Yep.
So that means if you're talking preseason or you talking regular season, because I did score in the preseason as well.
So I'm talking about in the regular season.
So that was around the 5th or 6th game.
Okay.
Was that
Against San
a
Francisco.
Hold on. That's the second part of the question.
Oh, okay.
All right. What was the play?
It was a return to the left.
it was a
Yeah. How many yards?
Not a clue.
All right. Well, we're gonna give it to him.
84.
Okay.
no
84. That's it.
84 yards.
Yeah, 84
But it was a
kickoff.
punt return. Or,
Yeah.
no, it was a kickoff.
Kickoff return,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah,
84-yard kickoff return.
which was totally different for you playing quarterback in college and then going to the league. But man, I've seen you shoot basketball, bro. Like I've seen you. Like you could do anything. I mean, it's one of those
Oh, you
guys.
can shoot ball?
Oh, bro. He ain't gonna tell you. Let me tell him.
Yeah.
Like he's just in there. Me and my son trying to practice. He and just hitting the bottom out of that
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
I said, yeah,
Yeah.
we got to bring him
You
with
got
us
that
one day.
left-handed jumper too.
No, I'm righty.
No,
Oh,
he's a
you're-
righty.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's a righty.
Yeah,
he's a righty.
Oh yeah. All
Well,
right. Well,
well,
he got the 3-pack.
He got the
But
three
he
pack.
gonna have to make the shot.
Yeah, this is not an easy shot.
All right,
Yeah.
that's the goal from what you call it, the fair.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they bend it. We
Yeah.
bend it, you know,
Yeah.
so that you don't get but
You
about
can't
maybe
make that shot.
one out of 100 win, you know.
Yeah.
But so Woody, let's talk about life. You know, I would imagine you can't talk about Woody Dantzler apart from football, because I'm sure you've probably had a ball in your hand since you was a kid. But let's just talk about your life growing up. Did you come from a broken home, or did you come from a home where your mom and dad were present?
Mom and dad was present.
I love that.
Yeah, I grew up with mom and dad. I was actually talking the other day about, sitting down, which I still implement to this day. Well, we got to get back to it. I don't say implement. We did it for a while. We get back to it. But the family dinners, we always eat at the table. You know,
A
we're not-
rhythm. You had a rhythm.
Yeah, I got that from growing up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I seen on your Instagram how you talked about, how your dad taught you these things and how as a man, they'd never leave.
Yeah. No. You still hear him. My dad passed back in 2005, but still to this day, I'm still hearing him in certain situations. Conversations we had, advice he's given, challenges he's made. I still hear them, and I'm guided by those.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very special, and a lot of what we try to do here is, people think recovery center, getting guys off drugs, but really our main objective is to restore men back to the home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the broken homes come from the absence of the man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the fact that a lot of the roots that you have today came from a daddy sitting at a table creating rhythms at home for the family.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big part of your growing up. I mean, just tell us more. I mean, I probably need to listen more because I'm eager to hear,
Yeah.
but just tell us a little bit about what that looked like growing up.
Well, for me, growing up, I was, and still to this day, I'm still just that little free-spirited, naive young kid full of energy.
Yeah.
And so much so that my energy was one that just always kept me moving. Didn't really know how to control it. Didn't know what to do or how to handle it. So that's when my dad introduced me to martial arts. So that's where I began to hone my athletic abilities. That's where I learned discipline. That's where I learned body control. That's
really
where
cool.
I learned all that stuff. And
But this ain't in South Carolina, right? Where are you living?
I'm
you was
from
on-
Orangeburg, South Carolina.
Orangeburg. That's
that's
right.
Born and raised,
So
yeah.
this is you started this journey in Orangeburg.
Yes.
Martial arts.
Yeah.
That's right near Bamberg, right?
Yeah, not too far from Bamberg. Yep. You're right.
Yeah, I've made some trips down there to pick up some cats.
Yeah. Take
It's not too bad. You get on 26 West, it's like, man, I'm almost there, bro.
Yeah.
But
2 hours
from
later.
here to 26 West, it feels
Yeah.
like, especially if you come through Columbia at 5.
Woody, how
Yeah.
old were you when you started martial arts?
That is a great question.
Like, was
Maybe
you a kid?
6, 7,
Yeah.
8, somewhere around up in there.
So was it martial arts before sports?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I'm assuming, martial arts is karate.
Karate, kung fu, yeah, just martial arts.
So
just
what
the-
about the color of belt that you?
Interesting question. I think the last belt I got was either blue or brown.
Bro, that's right before black. I mean, I'm
And-
glad
He's a-
you
he's
sitting
a
over there.
pro.
I'm glad you sitting over there
He's
with
a
him.
pro, yeah.
Let you get out of line. He gonna
yeah.
get you, boy.
Yeah. So but what happened? Cause I started in karate and I advanced up to there, and then we left. Something happened that my teacher ended up leaving, or something happened that made me transition. And I went to another school and started doing the kung fu. And then after that, my dad and the guy kind of fell out over something. I don't remember all the details, but then from there, I ended up reconnected with my first teacher, and we used to train at his house.
Oh wow.
So that's how that went. So as far as what belt, I don't know.
So
Yeah, but I mean, I would say blue or brown. I mean,
yeah, that's up there.
I still got a white belt. What about you?
I got a white belt. Yeah.
No, that's the belt you got because you got out of line. Your daddy popped that tail.
yeah,
I got.
That's the belt you
I
got.
had a brown belt too.
Yeah, you did. A leather brown belt.
When he
Nice.
said move them hands.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Did you grow up in a home where they were disciplined like that?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, mom was a disciplinarian, dad was a disciplinarian. They both were disciplinarians.
you ever been whooped by a hickory?
A hickory?
You know what a hickory is?
You talking about the switch that you had to
Yeah.
go get? Yeah. Come on now, we're not trying to get nobody in trouble around here.
I know, bro. These days you can't talk about that.
But
But
I'll share this story because I just like it's just one of those things of this is when I learned where I got my athletic ability from. So it's just one of those days. We were at the house. My dad was outside fixing the car, and my dad's passed now, so y'all can't do nothing to him. But
that's right. See?
But it's just he said, don't. For some reason, I wanted to jump out the window. Here we go with this energy thing.
Oh yeah, wide open.
And he's outside. Don't you jump out that window? Okay. And time passed, and then I look around. I didn't see him, so I decided to jump out the window anyway. Like I said, he was outside working on the car, and he just so happened to be changing the fan belt. So you can figure out what happened after that. I called myself running from him. He ran me down and disciplined me.
Yeah.
So,
but you went out running him.
No. And I learned later my daddy was a superb shortstop. He played baseball.
Dang.
Did you ever play baseball growing up?
One practice.
One practice.
One practice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, see, so my high school offensive coordinator, he was also the baseball coach. And he's been trying to get me to play baseball for the longest. And he said one day, just said, come on out. Just come. All I want you to do is pitch. You don't got to hit. You don't got to throw. You don't got to play the field. I just want you to pitch. So I went out there, threw the ball over the plate, felt good. He taught me the techniques. I was like, I could possibly do this. And I don't know if it was an omen. I don't know if it was divine intervention, but we went home, and for some reason, they had this special going on about pitchers getting hit by the pitch. This guy lost his eye. Another guy broke his nose.
No, that was it.
And I went back the next. I said, Coach, I'm just gonna run track.
Yeah. That was a divine intervention right there.
Yeah.
So, was your mom and dad in church?
We were, yes. Let me see. Yep, we went to church. It was one of those. I always joke around. Say I was a drug baby, because they drug us to church.
Yeah, we were both drug babies.
Yeah, we didn't have children's church, so that's when you went to big church and everybody else. You sit down, you get your peppermint, and you be quiet and you listen. You don't listen, you gonna meet an elbow, a forearm,
or a pinch with a turn.
Yeah.
No, I never got a pinch.
Bro,
I
my
got
mom would
the
grab
elbow.
me and she'd get them cross-eyes, like look at me cross-eyed. I knew then I better tighten up.
Tighten up real quick.
Tighten up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are also drugged to church, but I think today I look back and I think some of those roots is what brought me back at a young age, of being put in that atmosphere and environment to be able, because you think you're not getting something, but man, I realized how much it changed my life at a young age, that when I fell off from the path, like I think those roots is what drew me back,
Yeah. I mean, because we see it very often here with the difference between guys who were drugged to church growing up and those seeds were sown, unbeknownst to them, and then the guys who never knew what church was. They never walked in a church. Just the difference in those two things is pretty incredible. And it's not good or bad. It's just there's something to be said about taking your kids to church, about putting them in the environment where faith is talked about.
Yeah.
And I mean, it took us years and a lot of mess ups and mistakes to come back to what my grandma calls first love. Come back to that first love.
Yeah.
And I was like, Grandma, I don't know if I ever loved him first. And she was like, you're right, because he loved you first.
Right. Exactly. But you said a key point. You said the seeds that were planted, and you can relate that to a baby in the womb. And they talk about it's good to talk to your baby in the womb. A dad talking to and reading to his baby in the womb, and how when that baby comes out, never seen his father, but as soon as that father speaks,
He knows.
that
Yeah.
child knows their
Yeah.
father. So when we're in church at such a young age, the Bible talks about, it's for one to plant, one to water, but God will bring the increase.
Yeah.
And the timing in which that increase takes place is when God decides to do it. So just being in that environment and hearing these nuggets, hearing these seeds being planted into us, it turns into something later on as the watering process goes, be it those good experiences, those bad choices, all those culminate into watering that seed, and it sprouts at the right time.
Yeah, that's good. And plus, I needed to hear that again because a lot of times you get discouraged because some of the seeds you plant, you never get to really see
Yeah.
or reap the harvest.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of youth pastors that poured tears
For
into
sure.
me for years. I met one the
For
other
sure.
night that had poured into you, hadn't
Yeah.
seen you, and I got to tell him about your experience. But
Yeah.
I just realized sometimes, we get to sow seeds, but it's years sometimes before God brings the harvest.
But what you're speaking to right now is the arrogance of man.
Mm-hmm. It
we
is.
think we can, and I guess I will call it arrogance, because I had to come to that revelation, because like I said, I do mentoring now and I do different things, and I feel, even in my career, sales, I feel that given enough time, I can change anyone. I can get them to purchase from me or do what I'm asking them to do. But in life, you can't do that. You got to realize at some point it's seasons, and in my season, this is and I got to learn when sometimes I deal with that individual for this season, then I got to let them go.
Yeah.
And then
That's
let the
it.
next person water or sow more seeds, that sort of thing. So it can be a tough thing, because we think, especially a lot of the American pastors, it's about them. They're standing up on the stage, in the podium, and they're preaching to the congregation. And they start to feel like, they get that Luciferian spirit.
Yeah.
I want to be like God, that whole thing. So it's all about them. I posted something yesterday. I said the gospel. What did I say?
You said
The gospel is for you, not
you,
about you.
about you.
God, that's good, bro.
And we can put ourselves in the Bible and certain situations, but still, it's not about us.
Yeah.
And we got to come to that realization. We think that I got to make this person change. I need to teach. And we teach our children. We want our friends to do better. And I have to, no, I don't have to do nothing. All I have to do is be obedient to God, and let him handle it.
Yeah.
How he's going to handle it, when he's going to handle it. I just need to play my part.
Yeah.
So,
And I know for me, when I get into that lane of trying to play God, it comes with frustration. It comes with butting heads with people. And I know quickly, like, Bradley, you got to get back in your lane. You're wearing the wrong shoes.
Yeah.
And, over time, as you do it a while, you start to learn that it's about carrying the message. It's not carrying the person, that you can simply just point them to the one that helped you. But in that frontline work, man, it just, sometimes our humanness just gets in the way,
Here's this. I just thought about this. Check this out. Even God doesn't mess with free will. So who am I to think that I can maneuver your free will? I can give you the information. Two things you can do: accept it or reject it.
Yeah.
Do something with it or not do something with it.
Yeah.
Once I fulfill my role of passing on the information, it's up to you now.
Woody, you refreshing us this morning.
Yeah, well, my first
telling you.
my first mentor told me, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And I just realized for years I wanted something that I wasn't yet ready to receive. But when pain became great for me and brought me to a place, it became very easy to move forward in what I fought for years,
Yep.
And Jesus teaches that in Matthew 13, that truth is not yours until you find it. And I be trying to eat off everybody else's nuggets, but I found out when I really got desperate and sought him and heard, that was a totally different experience for
totally
me,
different.
you know? So when did you pick up a football? So martial arts was your first thing, but when did you ever pick up a football? When did that transition from martial arts to sports?
Elementary school, little league football. My dad one day just asked me if I wanted to play football, and I was like, "Okay, fine, let's go do it."
Did he love football?
I
Do you
would
remember
say,
watching him watch?
That was the only time I really, because even to this day, I don't really watch sports like that.
Yeah.
I'll watch games because, again, got some guys that I'm invested in, and I'll watch them play. But
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
having a team and watching and really sitting down on Sundays or Saturdays. Nah, that's not me.
Yeah.
But only time I really remember watching football like that was with my dad. He was a
Mm.
49ers fan. I remember sitting down watching him, watching the game with him. But other than that, no. So he had made the introduction. I got out there and started playing, and automatically just started excelling. And that's a good testament to not knowing it, but what God began to do, the work that he began in me through sports,
Mm.
put me on this platform where I am
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
And that started way back in elementary school
Yeah.
with me excelling in football. First year playing Little League football, small fry. I actually posted a picture of my framed Little League football jersey where we went undefeated small fry champions and also
Let's
so
go.
it was just
Oh,
one of
Fried Champions. I love it.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
but
great.
Yeah, that's how that happened. And I always, when I stepped on the field, it's always been one of those things of it was clear that I was one of the better players.
Mhm.
And that's not a bragging thing. That's just how God orchestrated because
Yeah.
of what he was doing for his people. Not for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
He was going to use me if I was willing and obedient. But it started, let's back up a little bit. It even started in martial arts
Mm-hmm.
because I excelled in that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, winning tournaments, except for the one time two times I didn't win. One, I got disqualified for kicking too hard. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And then the other time, again, I listened to my dad, my mom. They always, you never, don't put your hands on a girl. Don't fight a girl. And I may be exaggerating, but I promise you, this girl is probably about 8'6" in elementary school.
Yeah.
And I have to fight her, but I'm told you don't hit a girl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when the ref said fight,
You didn't move.
I didn't. I protected myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. And finally, they just stopped the fight because
Yeah.
they figured out. My dad was like, he's not going to do it
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't going to hit her
Mm.
because she was a girl. So
How about that?
but that's one of those things. So that's the only times I remember not really winning. But form, fighting tournaments, I still have. Well, it's actually I think it's broken now. But I had a trophy that's probably almost about 6 foot tall that I won a national tournament in North Carolina.
Dang.
One of my prized possessions is my Bruce Lee Jr. award. I'm a big Bruce Lee fan.
Yeah.
Well, he was very wise too.
Yes.
Very wise.
Yes. So, but yeah, it started there, excelling there, then getting in on the football field, and then excelling there. It was just one of those things of God was beginning to orchestrate His plan for my life.
But isn't it funny how it's never really about, and you said it earlier, it's never really about us, and it's not even really about what you're good at, but that God gives us these gifts, and as time goes, and you're 44 now,
Yes.
right? And at 44
Yes.
years old now, like you're seeing, and there's this manifestation in your life of what all that was really about.
Mm-hmm.
Like he lets us enjoy it and
Yeah.
lets us do these things. For me,
Yeah.
it was basketball, and he played sports too, and we enjoyed these things. And I thought that's what life was about.
Mm-hmm.
Until now, I realize that just got me to
Just a
where God. It was just a delivery service
Mm-hmm.
for where God was trying to take us to. Man, I just think that's so cool.
Well, I've always just believed gifting was to, the gifting that God gives us is for other people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
100% true.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so what a lot of times is the person who is gifted and talented struggle with is making sure they realize they're not their gifting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times my gifting can make me look like somebody that I'm still processing
Yeah.
to be in private. And, a lot of people that, are not founded in Christ, that don't know these spiritual principles, often have to be their gift to people. So they're never able to authentically process that character in private. So
Mhm.
they're constantly thinking they have to live up to what their gifting is
Yep.
presented them to
Yep.
be. And that's a tall task.
Yeah.
Yeah, and take that a step further. Our giftings are for other people, but guess what else for other people? Our struggles,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
our trials.
Yeah.
Because just sitting here, with the Bridge Center, so being sober. When the disciples and they got the gift of the Holy Spirit, and they began to speak in another tongue, and it was 120 up in that room, and the 120 nations sitting outside. They all heard the gospel in their own language.
That's
Mhm.
wild.
So essentially, when you struggle with an addiction, be it drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever it is, and when you come out of that struggle, Now you can speak
You
that
preaching,
language
Woody.
to that
He's
individual.
preaching real good
You
right
speak
now.
that language,
Yeah.
so you can connect to that guy where in a way I cannot.
Yeah.
So and that's what it's about. So it's our giftings. Our giftings allow us to do what God has us to do, but our struggles prepare us
Yeah.
and gives us a language to speak to pull other people out.
So let's talk about that for you as you got. What do you remember being some of your greatest struggles that's become the scars that God's put on display for these younger men?
It's like the thorn. I think about Paul talking about his thorn, and mine has been insecurity.
I mean,
To
let's
this
be
day.
honest. Like,
Yeah.
let's think about people that look at Woody in his life
Yeah.
and would, based on your ability and your gifting, would never.
Never.
No way Woodrow is dealing with. But what a place that we can get secure in Christ to where we can use our scars to potentially help younger men deal with it before we dealt with
Yeah.
it, so that they don't have to go through some of the things we went through to figure it out.
Right.
Right. So, let's talk about that. When did you start to find out, like, I don't feel like I'm as good as he thinks I am? Do you understand that?
Very young. It started, I remember in elementary school. I guess we are recording, so y'all can see what I look like. You know, not the lightest crayon in the crayon box, darker skin, and you get teased for that.
Yeah.
And that
100%.
always been an issue for me until I really began to grow and took my identity from my skin color to my identity in Christ. So, that was, I mean, even so much to the point of staying inside. I like one summer, I tell the story a lot. I wouldn't go outside when the sun was up because my goal was to be lighter when I get to the next school year. Obviously that didn't work because it's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
But it's just that whole thing of man's expectation, and you see it bleed over into college. It's not the skin color thing, but it's just expectations. You have a good game, and now all of a sudden I can't even enjoy the good game because a few hours later, oh man, I got to do that again. Can I do it again? Can I? And what I learned from that was insecurities can be one or two things. It can be your catapult or it can be your cage. And I chose to make my insecurities, and I think it's like thorn. It's like, again, going back to that thorn. I had to, so God can say, my grace is sufficient for you.
Yeah.
So when I was working throughout the week, it pushed me to work at a level of excellence to make sure when Saturday rolls around, I'm prepared, I'm ready, and I'm able. Because again, those insecurities could have put me in a box, and I, reclude back to myself, and I'd have been no good to no one. But having that feeling of insecurity pushed me to be better.
Yeah.
Pushed me to push myself to the next level.
Yeah.
So because again, going back, it wasn't about me. When I took the focus off of me and began to say, okay, if I fall into this hole and I go ahead and like an ostrich stick my head in the ground, I'm not the one, because my actions are going to affect my teammates. It's going to be a reflection on my family back at home. So I don't want to be the one to put that stigma on or do something detrimental for my team. I was talking about culture the other day with a buddy of mine, Mr. Powell, and we was talking about culture. And culture is always about bigger than me. Family is bigger than me. So I got to realize that what I do affects not just me. It's one of the things that I example that I forgot who said it, and I heard it. I'm a big quote guy, so you'll learn that as we talk. It's like you take a rock and you throw it in a body of water, and you see the ripples from that rock, but then after a while, the ripples subside. However, the energy from that rock is still traveling through the body of water. And that's what we got to realize when we make decisions, when we do things. Yes, it's going to affect us, but it's going to affect those that are closest to us. But it's also going to affect people we never knew it would. Think about just pulling from you guys' world. I'm a drunk driver, and I decided I'm a alcoholic, and I decided to drink and drive, and I hit someone. Not only do I damage the person that I hit if I if they lose their life in that crash, now their family's affected, their coworkers are affected, their friends. So it's that ripple effect, and that stuff goes throughout the years until, here's the thing, I forgot the actual scientific term. Somebody probably in the comment section, y'all might even know, y'all smart. It's something about energy. Energy continues to move until something else stops it or redirects it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So whatever that scientific law is, where's Neil Tyson deGrasse when you need him?
I know. I mean,
but that's what happens, and it's almost like the Damascus moment. That when God comes in and he changes, or he sends someone in your lane to change your course of action to take you on a new path.
Yep. And that was the case with mine in his life. So when I got out of rehab 6.5 years ago, I was lost. Like I just went to like a 28-day clinical place, nothing like this, right? And I was lost, man. I didn't know what to do. My identity was in money and privilege and all these other things that none of it was mine. None of it was mine. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't mine. And a few weeks later, like I found myself just absolutely miserable. And God had already made a way, and they had put an article on the Anderson Independent with him on the front page, and just an article about his ministry, right? Helping drug addicts, helping alcoholics. And my granddad got the newspaper in the mail while I was in rehab.
Wow.
And gave it to me when I got home, and my ego was like, man, they do, right? That ego, that arrogance.
Yeah.
And I threw that thing down. And about 3 weeks later, when I had enough pain, I was like, maybe this is a good idea. Yeah. Hey, bro, can you help me? And that started what it is now.
Wow.
And just how God puts these people in our path, man, it's really incredible, especially hearing other people's. Who is somebody like that in your life? Like
obviously,
somebody
my mom and my dad.
Okay.
You know, my mom was, I guess I'll say more of the silent assassin, because just her lifestyle. My dad fought in Vietnam.
My dad did too.
In Agent Orange, so he never worked. He was disabled my entire life.
Was he drafted or was he already in the Army?
I have no idea. That's a good question. I need to find that out. I need to ask the almanac, but in my family. But he and they fought. I said my uncles, they fought in Vietnam, but he came back, and as much I always remember taking trips down to the VA hospital in Charleston. So my dad was always sick. He didn't look it, but he was sick. You know, he might have a flare up. He'd go down, be in the hospital, come back. But my mom, she worked at a wire processing plant, third shift for 30 plus years.
Oh, wow.
You think about that. She's going to work 11 o'clock at night, getting home at around 7, getting us ready for school, picking us up, and, you know, some women are trying to find time to sleep. But she did this, and she was always there for us. So that's what my epitome of strength was.
Thank God for a good mama.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
They built different.
And see, it's just... And even in that, man, there's just so much to unpack. Yeah, we might be here all day. Yeah. But just my family dynamic, because I grew up in a home with my mom and my dad until middle school. To middle school, my parents actually split, but my dad was always in my life. They always still work together for the betterment of us.
That's fantastic.
And man, just remember those nights of hearing my mom and dad argue. You know, which put me at a disadvantage. Praise God for my now wife. She was one to break through it, but that was my picture of marriage. That's what I thought marriage was. Yeah. And I wanted no part of it. So if I was in high school, going into college, if I felt like I was getting into some real feelings with someone, cutting it off. I wasn't no parts of it. You know, but just getting back to who those people are. My mom and dad were first, because being able to have those relationships and watch them. And then my Uncle St. Clair was another one who would always challenge me. You know, so that was my grandfather on my dad's side's brother. You know, he would always talk to me and challenge me. And matter of fact, he was the one, just think about this, the Woody Dantzler, Clemson football player, almost never was. Getting back to those insecurities we talked about, Little League, and now I'm older, it's time to go to the big league. I was scared. Those guys are bigger than me. They're stronger. In fact, I'm scared. I'm not going to play. I just told him, no, I'm not going to play. I don't want to play. And he was able to sit me down and talk me through it to figure out, you know, why don't you want to play? Because I didn't want to say. I just said, I want to play. But he saw something. He knew something. We talked through it. He figured it out. And then long story made short, he convinced me to give it a try. Went out there and boom, started to sell again. So I could have been, we never could have met, but my football career could have been over because of fear and insecurities. Yeah.
Do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have 3 sisters and 2 younger brothers, and I have 2 older sisters between my mom and dad. Then I have another sister outside of, and then my 2 brothers are outside of my mom and dad.
Got you.
How about that? Are you the youngest or oldest? Middle?
In my family, between my mom and dad, I'm the youngest.
Oh wow. Because we're close in age. You're a little older than me, but we're close in age. I'm 40. You're 44. But,
yes.
You know, because when you said Vietnam, I realized you know, my dad would probably around the 8, because my dad passed in 2014, and he served in Vietnam, I think 70 to 72.
Yeah.
So I knew when you said that we were pretty close in age.
Right. But yeah, that's how that.
But it's funny though, because we had the same insecurities as Woody, but he responded to them differently.
Yeah.
You know, and also had people in his life that he could talk to, where I coming up, father sold drugs, you know. And it's funny you talked about what you've had to work through as, you know, with your wife. I can remember my mom and dad fighting, literally, like my dad like grabbing her and throwing her down.
Yeah.
And one of the things, as I got older, and I've been married, this year will be 14 years, I realized one of the things that did for me was I have nearly in the last 14 years got 3 times close to fighting somebody because of my wife.
On behalf.
No, I mean, I'm talking about my nose too. I mean, at one time, and I know that it's funny now, but it was a pastor that had accused me. I had found myself nose to nose with him. And I thought to myself, Bradley, like, your emotions, like, in this context is out of control and you can't control them. This is going to get you in a lot of trouble. So I had to do some deep inventory work.
Yeah.
Well, what I found is when I used to watch my dad do that to my mom, I can remember thinking how helpless I felt and how I couldn't protect my mom from this.
Right.
And I think subconsciously I decided that if I ever got married, that wouldn't nobody do this to my wife. But I realized, man, that even in my marriage, God is her defender.
Yeah.
And it ain't my place to have to feel like I got to do that. But that came from some of the environment I was a part of growing up. That as I got married, marriage started to help me see some things that, like you said, your wife helped you work through. My wife also helped me work through. And I don't always think a good woman is a fix to problems, but as you grow and grow in character, eventually one day you will find a wife, and that will be the good thing in your latter years that I think has been some part of the most developing years of my life.
Right. But here's what we got to realize. And again, just talked about this other day. It's not good to man that should be alone. It's not a good thing. No man is an island. So God said, I will send him a helper suitable for him. When else did he use that word helper? Jesus
Holy
said,
Spirit.
I must go. If I don't go, I can't send the helper to you. So he used the same word to describe the wife as he did the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So that's why she comes alongside and helps. I heard another pastor say it this way. I think it was, what is his name? Dr. Evans.
Tony
Evans. Love
That's
this
our guy.
And he said, you know, a woman is basically, she's whatever you give her, she makes it greater.
Yeah, makes it better.
So you give her a house, you buy her a house, she makes it a home.
She incubates it. I think that might be the word.
Yeah, he did use incubate. That's exactly what it was.
I've heard that.
You know, you put your seed in her, she gives you a baby.
Yes.
You give her an idea, she will help you flesh it out and make it greater.
You give her a house, she'll make a home.
Yeah, but here's what we got to realize too. And you know, I'm growing here, and I got to be. You need, whenever our wives are acting a particular way, it's, you know, the wife is a reflection of you. So what you've poured into her, that's what you're gonna get out. So you give her foolishness, she gonna multiply that foolishness. So it
Yeah.
works. It
Bro.
works either way. So I can't say my wife is this, my wife is that. It's got to be like, yeah, she's acting this way because what? Either I allowed it to happen or I caused it to happen. And that's that whole thing called responsibility, man. What's the environment you keep it? And then that even makes me go back because you were talking about environment. And we were talking about my childhood. Growing up, my parents split, but then at one point I was staying with my dad. And where we lived was not, I ain't gonna say it was a bad, I guess it was a bad if you think about it now because, right across the street was a crack house. I used to watch these people walking down my street every day. Right next door to me were the people who sold the drugs. That's who I hung out with. That's who I talked to.
Yeah.
So I very easily, you think about it.
Could have got persuaded that direction.
But that's the thing. No.
Don't think
It wasn't never like that.
It wasn't even an option for me.
Yeah.
Because, we talk about they say talk about the G code or the street code, the code of the streets. When we were growing up, it was one of those things of survival. And there was still a code. There was a respect. Yeah, I'm doing dirt. I'm in these streets. I'm selling drugs or whatever. I'm in this gang life. But it was even think about the Bloods and the Crips. The origin of that group was because of the oppression of black people. They banded together, Bloods. What is it? What Crip is. I'll remember in a minute. But they actually it's a strong acronym.
it was created for family.
It was created for family. It was created it was created to protect people and the community. That's what it was created for. It was since twisted. That's how Satan does. He likes to twist things.
Yep.
But when I talk about the code, and I like to give him a shout out. It's Mark Johnson.
Basketball coach?
No. It's a guy on the street.
Oh, just a cat that you grew up with.
Yeah. And he was the one that I hung out with him, we kind of, but if they were really going to go do something, okay, you got to go.
You got to go home.
There it is.
That's what he's talking about. They knew him. You can hang out, but we not pulling you into this.
No.
You're going home. You're not seeing this. There's things we're blocking from you.
Because that started feeling to my insecurities as well. Why he pushing me away and all that
But
stuff?
he was protecting you.
He was protecting me because when these guys, if they saw a light in you or they saw something in you, they're not going to let you mess it up.
Yeah.
Bro, I love
They
that.
would whoop your behind if you call yourself trying to get into a gang.
Yeah.
They don't do it. Not nowadays. They just everybody would, because that's the culture. That's the life. That's But he would not allow me. And I remember I posted something, and it blew my mind because he commented on he responded to it. He made a comment, and I just responded back to him saying, you were a part of this. You don't know the influence that you had on my life. How much are you? I said, you don't understand how much of a part of this success for me is. And his response was, yes, I did. And it was just, and he began to listen. He said, you were this, and this. And I was just, he knew it. And just think about it. I think he was probably late teens. He wasn't in 20s yet. He was older guy, maybe young 20s. I mean, early 20s. But still, he wasn't letting that he wasn't going to let me get into that life. And
I love that.
And I think about it this way. It's kind of twofold. You look back over your life and you see where God had his hand on you. And even in my state of thinking, even with my insecurities, I've always been a guy that was kind of walk to the beat of my own drum. I would, if I decide to do something, that mean I did it. You're not going to influence me. You're not going to give me no peer pressure. And my oldest daughter's like that. If she's going to do it, she's going to do it. So that's how I am. You're not going to persuade me. I can look at you, man, but let's go do it. No, I'm good. Oh man, you punk. Okay, I'll be that.
I'll be that. No problem.
And that's kind of how God built me. And then when I think through things, like when I finally got the gospel for real, it's just like, it's no, let me test and see. No, I'm can't swim, but I'm jumping in deep water.
I'm jumping in.
Because once I get information, that's how quickly I process it, and then I'm able to move. But God built me that way. I didn't understand that at the time, but even my wife called me an unapologetic different. Like, I'm going to be me. And
I think that personality you're talking about that God built you with is very unique to your calling too, because I think when you're healthy, your personality is something that he's woven in you to do what you've been
Yeah.
called to do. Now,
Yeah.
you could use that when you're, in sin, dead in sin, to be insecure and use self-seeking and try to find ways to be okay. But man, when you get well, when you begin that journey of letting Jesus grow you up, that personality sets you apart, and like that's a unique
Unique,
fingerprint about us. And I wish I had that,
Mhm.
but I think I was more like Peter. The Bible says that they called him Simon, and Simon meant reed, which is just a very thin piece of grass that when the wind blew, it just got thrown
Yep.
to and fro. And that was me. It was everything I touched, I adapted to it.
Morph to it. Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because Jesus didn't call him by his sin. He called him by his potential. He said, they call you Simon, but I call you Peter,
Yeah.
which is this solid stone that when it touches something, it takes shape of it.
Right.
Yep.
And I realized, like a lot of what you said, our weaknesses in Christ became my greatest assets because he was made strong in these areas that I was very weak in. But that was a hard thing for me to admit because I got sober at 22. But I started realizing getting sober was far greater than the absence of drinking.
Yeah.
Like we tell our guys, freedom is not the absence of drinking and using. Freedom is the presence of Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't trying to get that out. I was needing to surrender to get him in.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got in, all sorts of things over time began to change,
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought about what you said about your wife. I can't even stop thinking about that, of how we are the glory of God. Adam was the glory of God, but woman is the glory of man. And when something's wrong with her, I can't focus on her. I have to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
There it is, because
Bro-
she is my mirror.
Nobody wants to talk about that. What's wrong with her might be what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And, that's why I tell these young cats, like, I want to get married. Well, do you know the purpose of marriage?
Yeah.
Because before you jump into this marriage, let's talk a little bit, because I've learned some things the hard way,
Mm-hmm.
But you said something. You said, when I really got the gospel.
Yeah.
Tell me that. That's what I've been, like, when did that happen?
So let's talk about it. Like I said, I went to church growing up, and I had those seeds planted in me, and it was just one of those things of, again. So let me paint this picture too, because everyone talks about this big conversion story. I was out in the streets, and I was doing this, and I was drinking, and I was in the clubs. No, never me. Good kid. I listened to my parents. Never in any trouble. Never drank in my life. Never smoked in my life. None of that.
To this day.
Till this day.
That's amazing.
To
Would
my-
That's amazing, man. That is a testimony that people need to hear.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do not have to do what those cats did. Stop trying to add to your testimony. Jesus don't need you to do a whole lot so the
Yeah.
salvation can look good. That your testimony is a prime example of that.
Yeah, so never in trouble with the law, outside. Well, I can say it outside, but in my didn't really get in trouble outside of normal kid stuff.
Yeah.
As a kid, I'm growing, I'm developing, and I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do stuff. I'm going to be a little disobedient here, but for the most part, I was a good kid. I listened to my parents. No referrals in school. Didn't get in fights. Well, I did get in a fight with my best friend, but that don't really count. It's like my brother.
He's
So
your best friend.
Yeah, that's
that
what we
don't-
that's what we did.
Yeah.
that don't count. We fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
we
fight.
talk about it, joke about it later
Yeah.
on this same day.
Yeah.
Same day,
yeah.
maybe even this next breath.
Yeah.
So I get to I get to Clemson again, being that naive kid. First year there, red shirted, and the next year's got a little bit of playing time, and then this is 1999, and I'm sitting there, and this is one of those nights of something's missing. You kind of get back to you've heard about Jesus. So just the little simple prayer. So Jesus, God, if you're real, I need a sign. Simple as that. The next day, again, I came into Clemson under Tommy West. And we were towards the end
He
of that
recruited you?
Yes. Rick Stockstill was my
Yeah.
was my coach, was my recruiting coordinator. He was the receivers coach at the time. So Rick Stockstill is the reason why I went to Clemson. Because again, I didn't watch football. I didn't know anything about Clemson or Carolina. But when it was just something about Coach Stockstill that was like, I want to be where you are.
Yeah.
That's why I chose Clemson. Everybody
I
asks,
love that.
why
That's
did you choose Clemson?
powerful.
Rick Stockstill was the
Yeah.
reason why I chose Clemson. So 1999, towards the end of the year, right before the Duke game, I think it was the last game of the season, or just the game before that, I asked this question, God, if you're real, I need a sign.
So you're just sitting at home.
I'm just sitting in my dorm, in my room, yeah. And I just, to myself, thinking, something, because you just start to feel, you have that void. It's on that guy's size void that only he can feel. And I'm like, something's missing. What's different? I just don't. God, if you're real, I need to know. The next day, we learned that Coach West is going to be relieved of his duties as head coach. So, okay, I don't know this whole football thing. Coach West gave me my scholarship.
Yeah.
Only reason why I'm at school, because we didn't have the money to pay for school. So he's going to get released. So do I get to keep my scholarship? Do I got to go back? If I go back home, there ain't nothing good in Orangeburg right now. I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back there. So, God, is this your sign and this is how you want to show me who you are? You know what? I don't know if I want anything to do with you. That's kind of how. But then what happens was, finish out the year, they hire Coach Bowden. With Coach Bowden comes a man by the name of Darren Bruce. First time we actually have a team chaplain. And we come into that first Bible study.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, it was worse than 3 days. These kids don't know nothing about 3 days anymore. Even they don't know what 2 days are no more. So I came out of that Bible study hurting. And all that was conviction.
Yeah.
And that night it was like, okay, he gave, for the first time I heard the gospel real. You do this, you go to heaven. You do this, you go to hell. Jesus is the way. So let's put it in this perspective. I was the good kid. I was good by my standards. However, my destination was hell, along with the robber, the killer, the drunkard, the murder. I'm going to hell with them because I don't know Jesus.
Yeah.
And so many people think that, I'm good and I'm good. No, Adam jacked that up in the garden.
Yeah, he did.
So as good as I was, my good behind was going to hell.
Yeah.
And that night, I made a commitment to Christ in 1999 in that Bible study, and it was new perspective. Romans 12, new mind now.
Yeah.
And I'm in it. I'm in it. I even think about even
And you ain't even starting at this juncture. Brandon Streeter's the quarterback.
Yeah, he's a quarterback.
And you're just redshirt freshman.
Yeah, this was the summer leading into the new year, so we hadn't started. We hadn't
even
started
started it.
Yeah, they had just come in, so this is over summer workouts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we hadn't started yet. So just getting that going, it was just like, man, now I got this new life in Christ now, and He played a pivotal role in me. Because he was the one beginning to pull out gifts in me. He was the one who got me to begin to pursue this thing called speaking to people.
Yeah.
He saw that gift and he began to.
This is why you were a football player.
At
You were speaking to people.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The first Bible study I had was at Vickery Hall at the time, where when we did our tutoring, we had Bible study, and I was going to lead the Bible study, my first Bible study.
Yeah.
One person showed up. We're not going to. Somebody's here. Let's go. Give me what you got.
I love that.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So and that was my conversion story. Simple, to the point, but that was it. And after that night in 1999, I was all in for Christ. Now, did my actions all the way reflect it? I mean, it was really no different than before, because I was the good kid. I went out, but I don't like going out. I went out with my friends now, but I didn't engage in the all going out stuff.
Sure.
I'd rather be at home in my room or in my dorm room just relaxing.
Yeah.
That just wasn't me. I don't like being around a bunch of people,
Yeah.
crowd of people. That's just me. So, but that was the turning point for me. And I always like to emphasize how people say, you got to realize, as good as you are, without Christ, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Because we all have that sin that needs to be paid for.
Yeah,
The
it
wages
does.
of sin is death.
Yep.
And I can't pay that sin on my own. The only way I can pay it is to die and go to hell. But thank God for Jesus, who did that for me.
Yes.
And now all I got to do is to step into Him,
Yeah.
and I'm golden.
Yeah.
So that's what my life has been since 1999. And again, full speed ahead.
But I think when that happens, football becomes an addition.
Yeah.
It's not an identity. It's we have goals. We aspire to things, but at the end of the day, when you have Christ, despite how that ends, you still have everything.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
So, man, we're
There's a
just
lot.
now
Yeah, I
getting
got
to
about 14 questions.
we're just getting to the brunt of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
He enters Clemson, redshirt freshman, meets Jesus. That's never something I thought about when I watched him play football. It was not, does he know Jesus?
Yeah.
It was, I need him to score this touchdown, But
Mhm.
what an amazing perspective for the world to hear that. that this man came to the end of himself to realize no matter his gifting or goodness, that it was never enough to pay for the debt that he owed because of Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and now I'm starting my college career, but I've got everything I need regardless of how
Yep.
this goes.
Yep.
So
And we don't fully
We don't fully
grasp
know
that at the
then.
time.
Yeah.
But in eternity's perspective, like when you got saved that day, everything God was going to do,
the
it was
doors have been
done.
opened.
Done.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, do we got time? Can we let's
Yeah,
go
let's-
through this?
Okay.
You just keep on telling
Yeah,
us.
but for that, let's pause for a minute. I need to run to the bathroom. I need to go grab my phone too.
I think
yeah,
that's
let's
a
do it.
great idea.
let's
Matter of
pause it.
fact, in order to hear this, you're gonna have to tune in next week to hear some more from Woody. Until next time.
Peace.
Yeah.